First, plug in your Ethernet and power if necessary. Then plug in the HDMI output coming from your server. And finally, connect the USB data cable coming from your server. As you can see on the front LCD, we can see the IP address, host name, and various status icons. There's also a USB-A utility port for reflashing or future accessories. And finally, there are 2 user buttons for manipulating the device without accessing the web interface. All right, now we're going to take a tour of the TinyPilot web interface. You see our server is booting up now. If we had a reason to enter the BIOS menu, we would want to mash whatever key is appropriate for our computer at that moment to get into BIOS. Right now, though, we can just proceed to the normal system. We're going to start the tour right here in System Settings, then into Security, and then Users. This opens our user dialog box where we can create users with 1 of 2 access levels. Administrator has full access to TinyPilot's web interface and system settings, whereas an operator can control the target machine using TinyPilot's web interface, but can't manage TinyPilot's system settings or network stack. Next, we have SSH, where we can enable SSH access. Please note that the credentials are insecure. You should change those as soon as you log in over SSH for the first time. Then we have HTTPS, which is enabled by default. We recommend you leave that enabled. Next, we have our virtual media feature. This is where you're able to upload files from your computer, a URL, or create a disk image from files that then is available to the target system. There are a few options to show here. You can either have the virtual media mount as a read-only flash drive, a read-write flash drive, or a CD-ROM to the target system itself. We'll go ahead and select Mount. You'll see now it shows as mounted, so this underlying target system should now have access to this Windows Server ISO. Next, we have an update option, and that's going to check for the latest TinyPilot software to make sure that you are running with the most up-to-date features. Then we have our networking menu. Hostname is where you can change the friendly host name that you're able to use to access your TinyPilot. By default, it is TinyPilot. One note that every TinyPilot we ship defaults to TinyPilot. So if you join a number of TinyPilot devices to your network and you do not change the host names, there will be collisions with MDNS. You can resolve that by changing host names one by one before adding the second or third or fourth TinyPilot device, or by referencing the IP address on the front of a TinyPilot Voyager 3 to allow you to connect using the IP address. Next, we have Wi-Fi. This is where you will enter the credentials for whatever Wi-Fi network you wish your TinyPilot device to join. Please note, the credentials will save and it will continue to try to join that network even if it is not in range. That can sometimes be helpful if you're preparing a device before deploying it to a different site. You could preload those credentials, then when it gets on the site where the Wi-Fi network is located, it will join that automatically. Next, we have our static IP option. So you can select to either assign it to LAN 1, LAN 2 on this TinyPilot Voyager 3 Plus model, or Wi-Fi. You can assign that static IP and the router IP address here. Next, we have our Tailscale dialog. So this allows installation and setup of Tailscale as a zero trust overlay that will allow you to access your TinyPilot device securely over the internet. If you want to set up Tailscale, simply click Install and follow the prompts to join it to your Tailnet. Tailscale has many levels of free accounts and also paid accounts, so there are plenty of options for you to use Tailscale for secure connectivity. Next, we have our network status dialog, and this is going to show all the connections that the TinyPilot device has. Right now, we're currently only connected over LAN 1, shows the IP address and the MAC address of that interface. Next, we have our video settings. The default is MJPEG, which is going to have a higher bandwidth requirement, but it is more compatible with certain servers and legacy devices. We recommend Switching to H.264, that's going to give you higher quality video and lower bandwidth. It's especially useful if you're going to use Tailscale or another zero trust overlay to access this outside the local area network. H.264 is also required if you are hoping to hear audio from the target device. Next, we have a logs dialog box, and this helps in retrieving debug logs that you can send to the TinyPilot support team if they ever request those to help you in troubleshooting your workflows. Next, we have our power menu, which will allow you to shut down or restart the TinyPilot device. Remember, it is not shutting down or restarting the target machine. Next, we have our actions menu. First, you'll see paste. So this will allow you to paste a string of text to the target system. Next, we have a screenshot functionality that is going to save a screenshot of the target device to your local computer. Then we have the Wake on LAN feature where you can send a magic packet to wake up any device that has Wake on LAN capabilities and is reachable from the TinyPilot device. This is useful to wake a server that may be powered off and is configured for Wake on LAN. Then we have our serial console interface. It's going to recognize any USB to serial converter or any device that connects to serial over straight USB will show up here. You can adjust the baud rate, data bits, and other settings here to connect properly to the device. This then presents you with a serial terminal where you can manage a switch, firewall, PDU, or other serial device securely from your TinyPilot. Next, we have our common keyboard shortcuts. This allows you to send a system-level keyboard shortcut to the target device, bypassing your client device. For example, Control-Alt-Delete to log in to this underlying Windows system. Next, we're going to go into the View menu and see the options here. You can change what you would like the cursor to look like. You can also show an on-screen keyboard. You can also enable or disable the key history that shows in the bottom right corner of the window. It is on by default. You can also view your target system in full screen, which makes for a more immersive experience. Hit Escape to exit. And finally, we have our Help menu. This is where you can learn more about TinyPilot, access technical support, or our FAQ.